She called me crying on a Tuesday afternoon. Her name was Margaret. Not one of my patients, but her daughter was. And her daughter had begged her to call me because Margaret had just burned dinner for the third time that week. Not because she was distracted, because she had forgotten the stove was on. She told me, "Dr. Jenkins, I think something is happening to my brain, and I don't know who to talk to." I sat with her on that call for 45 minutes because what she was describing, that slow, creeping fog, the names you reach for and can't find, the moments where you walk into a room and have absolutely no idea why you went there, those aren't just senior moments, and they are not inevitable. I'm Dr. Sarah Jenkins. I practice integrative medicine here in Austin, Texas. I have been working with patients over 60 for more than 18 years, and in my clinic, over 2,000 patients have come to me specifically with memory concerns, brain fog, and that terrifying feeling that their mind is slowly becoming a stranger to them. I want to share something with you today that I wish I had known earlier in my career, because it would have changed how I approached every single patient who walked through my door worried about their brain. It starts with your arteries, and specifically, what is happening inside them right now without you feeling a single thing. Here's what most people don't understand. Your brain is the most blood-hungry organ in your entire body. It uses 20% of everything your heart pumps, every single minute of every single day. And when the tiny arteries feeding your brain start to narrow, start to stiffen, start to slow that blood flow even slightly, the brain does not send you pain. It doesn't ring an alarm. What it does is quiet down. It gets slower, hazier. Words become harder to find. Sleep becomes less restful. Focus becomes a fight. A landmark study published in the journal Neurology found that adults over 60 with reduced cerebral blood flow were significantly more likely to experience accelerated cognitive decline, even before any formal diagnosis, even before they had any idea something was wrong. That window, that silent period, is everything, because it is exactly when you can still change the trajectory. And here is what made me angry when I first learned this. There is a food, a very common, widely available food that has been demonized for decades in mainstream medicine, dismissed, mocked, practically blacklisted from the diets of adults over 50. A food that research, including studies from Harvard, from Johns Hopkins, from the American Heart Association, now shows may be one of the most powerful tools we have for supporting healthy blood flow to the brain. And most people over 60 have been told to avoid it. I'm going to tell you exactly what that food is, and I am going to tell you why it has been so misunderstood. Because once you understand the mechanism, the real science of what is happening inside your arteries, you will never look at this food the same way again. The food is eggs, specifically the yolk. I know, I can already hear the pushback. Dr. Jenkins, my doctor told me eggs raise my cholesterol. I've been avoiding eggs for 20 years. Aren't they bad for your heart? Here's the truth. And this is where decades of nutritional science went completely off course. The fear of eggs came from a single flawed hypothesis, the idea that dietary cholesterol directly raises blood cholesterol and clogs arteries. That idea has been largely dismantled by modern research. The 2020 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee concluded there is not enough evidence to support a specific limit on dietary cholesterol for healthy adults. The villain was never the egg. The villain was inflammation, oxidized fats, processed foods. But eggs got caught in the crossfire, and millions of people, especially older adults who need what eggs contain, were told to throw away the most nutritious part. Here is what the yolk actually delivers to your brain. Choline, one of the most critical nutrients for the production of acetylcholine, which is the primary neurotransmitter responsible for memory and learning. Research from Boston University found that higher dietary choline intake was associated with better cognitive performance and improved memory scores in adults over 60. Lutein, a carotenoid that crosses the blood-brain barrier and supports the structural integrity of neurons. Vitamin B12, essential for myelin sheath repair, the protective coating around your nerve fibers. Healthy fats that your brain literally uses to rebuild its own cell membranes. And here is what matters most. The fat in egg yolks, when consumed in whole food form, has been shown to help reduce arterial stiffness. It supports the production of nitric oxide, which is your body's own natural mechanism for keeping blood vessels flexible and blood flowing freely to your brain, where you need it most. But I need to stop here for a moment, because everything I just described, the choline, the B12, the lutein, the nitric oxide support, this is not a complete solution by itself. Diet matters enormously. But the research I have spent the last several years diving into has shown me that most adults over 60 are running a deficit in multiple areas simultaneously. It is rarely just one thing, and it is rarely fixed by one food alone. If you want to understand what I put together after years of researching this exact brain mechanism, I don't want you to leave today without knowing about it. Check the pinned comment below this video. I shared something there for anyone who wants to go further. Now, back to what you can do starting today. Eggs are one piece, but let me give you the fuller picture. Because my patients who have seen the most meaningful changes in their clarity and focus didn't just add one food, they changed their relationship with their brain entirely. The second thing that matters is rhythmic movement. Not intense exercise, not running marathons. I mean walking. Specifically, 30 to 40 minutes of continuous walking, 4 to 5 days a week. Here is why this matters for brain arteries specifically. Walking at a consistent pace creates what researchers call pulsatile blood flow, a rhythmic pressure wave that has been shown to actively reduce arterial stiffness over time. One study in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society showed that older adults who walked consistently had measurably more flexible cerebral arteries within 12 weeks. 12 weeks. That is not a long time. The third thing, and this one surprises people, is your sleep position and sleep quality. Your brain has its own waste removal system called the glymphatic system. It is most active during deep sleep, particularly when you are sleeping on your side. This system literally flushes metabolic waste from your brain tissue during the night. If your sleep is fragmented, if you are waking frequently, if you are not reaching deep sleep stages, that system is not completing its job. The debris accumulates. And over time, that accumulation affects how clearly you think and how well you remember. The fourth thing is managing what I call the inflammation triangle: blood sugar spikes, chronic stress, and social isolation. These three things, together, have a measurably devastating effect on brain artery health in adults over 60, and they often travel together. Someone whose blood sugar is dysregulated tends to sleep poorly. Someone who sleeps poorly has elevated cortisol. Elevated cortisol drives inflammation. Inflammation stiffens arteries. And suddenly, what started as a dietary issue has become a whole system problem. I have watched this pattern play out in my clinic more times than I can count, and I have watched it reverse. Dorothy from Georgia, 67 years old, came to me after her granddaughter noticed she was repeating the same stories within the same conversation. Dorothy was embarrassed. She told me she had started withdrawing from family gatherings because she was afraid of what she might say or forget. Within 4 months of working together, Dorothy told me, in her words, "I feel like the lights came back on." She started hosting Sunday dinners again. Carol from Arizona, 71, had been avoiding eggs for 19 years on her doctor's advice. When we revisited that and made several targeted changes to her routine, including adding eggs back and addressing her sleep, she reported that word finding, which had been a daily struggle, became noticeably easier within 6 weeks. Linda from Tennessee, 68, was the most skeptical person I have ever worked with. She sat across from me in my office and said, I've tried everything. Nothing works for people my age." 8 months later, she sent me a handwritten note. She said her daughter had called and told her, "Mom, you sound like yourself again." And Barbara from Virginia, 74, told me something that has stayed with me. She said, "I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of disappearing while I was still here." Barbara is sharp, present, engaged. She volunteers twice a week. She said what helped her most was finally understanding that this was not inevitable and having a real plan. That is what I want for you. Because here is what I know after 18 years of sitting with patients who are terrified about their brains. The ones who feel powerless are not powerless. They were just never given the right information. They were told to accept decline as a normal part of aging, and that is simply not true. Your brain is not finished. Your arteries can be supported. Your clarity is not gone. It is waiting. I don't want you to leave today without taking one more step, not because I am trying to sell you something, but because the research I have spent years pulling together on the exact mechanism we talked about today led me to something I feel a genuine responsibility to share. I put it in the pinned comment below. Go read it. It will take you 2 minutes, and it might be the most important 2 minutes you spend this week. Your brain has been working for you your entire life. It is time to work for it.